Kuvav Days. We are 106B. Okay, running out of time, Yidden, so let's get into it. Kuvav Days, we're 106B. We are towards the bottom of the page. You'll see the line begins with the word aliba. Yes. Yes. The line begins with the word aliba de hilchasa, and then the middle line it says Amar Rab Aleph Reish, like Amar Rab Ami. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 lines from the top bottom of the page. The line begins with the word aliba, and the word is a little bit to the right of the center. Aleph Reish, Amar Rab Ami. Okay, so we're in the middle of discussing the fate of Doeg. Doeg HaDoimi. Just to refresh our memory, Doeg HaDoimi, Doeg the Edomite, is the one who was in the council of King Shaul, and he betrayed King David HaMelech, when David was hiding in the town of Koyanim. Name of the town escapes my... Nov. And he betrays David, and as a result, the entire Nov is massacred.
85
more, and there was one, except for one survived. The son of the leader, the son of the Kohen Gadol, and as a result, his two big sins are slander, lashon hara, and murder. As a result of he actually lied about it also because he didn't say the full truth, the whole story. Bottom line is that he made it onto the list of people that our sages say he's one of the four commoners that forfeited their share in the world to come. So as with the other people who forfeited their share in the world to come, the kings and the commoners, we went through all the kings, right? We went through Yeravam, Achav, and Menashe, and then we went through Bilam. Commoner number 1 and commoner number 2 is Doeg. In the context of Doeg, Achisophel comes up as well. Doeg, as we'll see, Doeg betrayed King David, but he was in the times of King Shaul, and Achisophel later betrayed David HaMelech when joining the rebellion of Avshalom, David's son. Again, he defected from being in David's council and became in Avshalom's council against King David. So that together, they're kind of lumped together, which is interesting why they are. But the Gemara is going to comment about specifically Doeg, but also in that context, Achisophel is going to come up as well. So this is where we are at the moment. We also talked about Doeg being a huge and massive Torah scholar, but lacking fear of heaven. That's the mistake. Notwithstanding all of his huge Torah scholarship, and missing the main point, which is that this is God's Torah, he stumbled.
He converted?
No. He just behaved the wrong way. Because he came from Edom, I don't know. But
he was a Jew.
He's a Jew.
He was in the Sanhedrin, but he lived in the area of Edom.
Nobody could ever...
This is Gemara, we don't... No. Gemara is definitely final ruling. Okay. Amar Rab Ami said, this is not halacha, this is medrash, but nonetheless. Amar Rab Ami says, Loi meiz Doeg did not die, until he lost all of his Torah. So, in other words, person whose Torah or Doeg, whose immense Torah lacked an appreciation for the fact that this is God's Torah, eventually lost the scholarship of Torah also. His Torah was for academic pursuit, that's what it was, for selfish academic pursuit, rather than as a means to a connection to Hashem, and as a result, before he died, he actually lost all of his Torah, didn't maintain it. How does he know this? How does Rav Ami come to this conclusion? Shneimar, because the pasuk says, Hu Yamus, this is a book in Mishlei, he, the proverbial sinner, Yamus will die, Be'ein Musa, without instruction, without ethics, meaning without his Mesoda, without his tradition, without his teachings. And in all of his, as a result of the multiple sins, Yiske, it'll all be forgotten from him, or he'll go astray. In other words, because of his sin, because of his lacking appreciation, lacking Yireh Shamayim, lacking fear of heaven, lacking the Soid Hashem L'Rev, which we described in the previous class, he lost his Torah study as well. Rav Ashi says further, in Itztara he was afflicted with tzaras, leprosy, the spiritual leprosy that a person gets. But tzaras in the Torah, leprosy, this spiritual affliction of discoloration on the skin, number of different colors. Most famous of them is 4 different shades of white, is associated with someone who was a slanderer, with Lashon Hara. Right? Miriam got it as a result of Lashon Hara. And others. So his big sin is Lashon Hara, slandering to King Shaul about where David HaMelech is hiding. So therefore, before he died, he got saras. How did the Gemara come to this conclusion? How did the Rashi come to the conclusion? Now we're about to go through we're going to be bouncing around through 3 different themes, and we're going to invoke 3 different texts, which are in some way completely unrelated, and the relation is, at least at the surface, is merely word association. So follow along. Don't get caught up with the laws that I'm going to introduce you to, because what's primary here is, at least understanding the simple level of the Gemara, is the word association. That's about to come, just the strict word association. Along with that, we're just going to give the context of each of the words, but it's mainly a word association. But obviously, it behooves us to look a little deeper and see what are the intrinsic connection beyond just the word association. But let's start with the word association. So let's start this. Shinema, the verse reads, verse number 1. This is in Tehillim. Hitzmata kol zaynim mecha. You will destroy. This is David Melech speaking to God. You will destroy all those who. Zayna means to
stray away.
To stray. Yeah, to even the word zonah comes from that idea. A person strays. And all those who stray from you will be destroyed. But the word invoked here to say destroyed is hitzmata. Word number 1, in reference to destroying the wicked. Talking about doyeg. Doyeg is being destroyed, but being destroyed in this word, hitzmata. Right? King David says Tehillim, and he was the one that was hurt by doyeg. Right? Here we already had before him discussions about doyeg in relation to David's feelings about doyeg. But the word here used to describe his destruction is hitzmata. Now, Ksiv Hasam, it says elsewhere, with respect to the law of selling land in Israel, it says litzmitus, which means the verse says that a person should not sell the land forever. It means the house returns at Yovel. At the Jubilee year, the house returns. The house sold in Yerushalayim, a whole complicated set of laws. But the bottom line is that because Hashem granted you specifically this portion of land of Israel, you don't have the right to just sell it off. Hashem gave it to you. You're selling it off. So the halacha is that Torah says that you cannot sell it forever. And the word there used is, to describe this word that it should not be sold forever, is again the same word, letzmutis, which is a similar word to itzmata. Now, when we targum minon, how do we translate the word litzmitus, which is this word which means forever, which is a similar root word as itzmata, which was the word used to describe the destruction of doyeg? The word we use to translate the word litzmitus is, the word in Aramaic is lachalutin. Chalutin means forever, but it's a certain way of saying forever. Forever means no, chalutin doesn't mean infinite. Chalutin means cleanly, without completely, without return, permanently. Yeah, permanently is the right word. Chalutin means it's all done.
He would say behachlet.
Behachlet, with certainty.
And the chalatza you have by that.
Or the shchita, that's right. It means certainty, clean-cut certainty. That's the way the Unkelus translates the word smitos, which means eternally. He translated it as lachalutin, which means permanently. So the word hitzmata, which is the word for destruction of doyeg, is similar to the word smitos, which means eternal, which was translated as lachalutin, which means permanently or cleanly. Okay? So now we're at the word lachalutin. The word hitzmata took us to smitos, which now takes us to lachalutin. Now, we're going to see that the word lachalutin is associated with saras. And that's how we know doyeg came to saras. This word association. Where do we see the word lachalutin associated with the word saras? The Tanan, we learned in the Mishnah. Mishnah is in Megillah, I think, right?
Yeah.
Sorry?
The Ein Bein series of...
That's right, the Ein Bein series in Megillah. Which says, Ein Bein muskar muchlet ela prio prima. There are 2 stages in saras. One is a tzaras who is unidentified. He's uncertain. He's not definitely a tzaras yet. So there's a certain stage where the discoloration appears on the skin, and at that stage the person is not an absolute clear tzaras yet. So he becomes what's called a musgar, which means he is secluded outside of the camp, outside of the community.
He's quarantined.
He's quarantined, yeah. And then the kohen goes out there and examines him a week later and decides at that point, is he absolutely tzaras?
He has fever, but they still didn't...
They haven't decided if he's still in his 14-day quarantine.
Sounds like
it's actually a 7-day quarantine, not a 14-day quarantine.
Well, it could be up to 13 days.
If they do 2 rounds, but it's originally 17 days. 7 days, I'm sorry. So He's quarantined for 7 days. The Kohen goes out, checks the discoloration, and sees if anything changed. If it got smaller, if it got bigger, if it stayed the same, and what he has to do. So this is a Kohen. Sorry. Excuse me? Sorry. So this Kohen, this person who is musgar, he's secluded, and if he comes back and the Kohen decides he's not a tzaras, that he's not an absolute tzaras, he goes through a smaller process of purification. But what he doesn't do is perio prima, which means shaving his whole hair and burning his clothing, right?
Tear his clothes, let his hair grow long.
Reverse.
Hair grow long.
Color.
And eventually he'll cut his hair when he
Cutting his hair is later. No. Sorry.
Purification. Yeah, no, that's right.
That's if he gets the longer purification, right? If he doesn't get the longer purification, he doesn't get that.
When he's in the state of mukhlat before he's...
I'm talking about the muskar now, not the mukhlat.
The muskar is free from priya and free making.
That's right.
Doesn't tear his clothes, doesn't have to let his hair grow long.
Right. So that's right. That's right. Correct. So if he's not absolutely set aside as an absolute tzaras, which means during this time he comes back and he's told he can go home, he's not full tzaras, he doesn't tear his clothing, he doesn't have to let his hair grow. If, however, to begin with or later, the kohen examines the discoloration and says you're definitely a tzaras, then he has a whole longer process. He has to stay out he has quarantine for a longer time until he gets cured, and then when he's done, he has to go through a process of purification. In addition to the purification that the original person who was uncertain tzaras went through, he also has to do these two things called perio prima, which is to tear his clothing and let his hair grow. Now, there's a whole process. The main point is
three things you have to do.
There's more than three things, but that's not the point now. There's a whole bunch of things you have to do. There's a korban. There's a verbal process.
There's a korban after that.
There's a verbal process. There's a whole process of mikveh and a whole bunch of processes. But the main point here is that the word association here, the word we're using for the person who's the absolute tzaras is mukhlat, which means, again, this word certainty, permanently. So now let's work backwards in the word association. The person who's absolute tzaras is referred to in the Mishnah as mukhlat, absolute tzaras. This word mukhlat is the same root word as lachalutin, which means certainly or permanently, which is the translation of the word smitus, which means eternal. That was a word used with respect to the law of selling land that it's not sold permanently. This word, I don't know what it is. This word smitus is the same word as hitzmata, which was the word used to describe the destruction of doeg. And therefore, says Rav Ami, we're coming to the conclusion that before his death, he had tzaras because of this word association. Hitzmata, tetzmitus, which is translated as lachalutin. Lachalutin is hechlet, which is the word used for tzaras. Now, there's three themes really here. There's the destruction of doeg. There is the law against selling the land permanently, and then there is the tzaras. Now, I've been putting some thought into it, but I have to think about this a little bit more. What's the intrinsic connection here between all these three things? The misbehavior of doeg, especially in the context of, as we learned before, someone who has academic study but lacks the appreciation that this is Hashem's Torah, and then what's the connection between that and not selling the land?
The connection is good.
So the connection there could be.
Belongs to Hashem, clearly.
What's the reason why? That's what I was thinking.
Has to be.
That's
I wrote it here. Infinite. He objected the infinite. He has certain. He dissected it in 1, 2, 3 is what we're talking about.
So I think the obvious association Rabbi Gimel is suggesting, which is what the first thought I have,
Happy face.
is that in the same way he studied Torah academically without appreciation, this is Hashem's Torah. So a person takes the land of Israel as a investment property rather than appreciating that this is divine. But it's kind of devolved. First, you're looking at Torah, so it's academic, it's a higher pursuit, but a person has a subtle mistake where he forgets that this is Hashem's Torah. Eventually, he gets to the point where even he takes the value of physical land over the fact that this is godly and divine. In other words, taking academic over divine is one level, going down to a level where a person takes the physical property over the fact that this is Hashem's divine, which eventually leads to his Ahavas Yisrael, his relationship with other Jews. Instead of looking at another Jew and saying this is a neshama toward whom I have, like we learned in today's Hayom Yom, an absolute love for another Jew because there's a neshama here, he looks at it as another opportunity for him to try to advance his relationship with King Saul and rats out King David. So again, it could be the core, like it's like a devolved mistake.
Mistake in logic.
It's a devolved mistake, starting off with the original mistake of academic
Certainty.
Torah rather than
Infinite.
this is Hashem's Torah. And it could be, as you related, connecting to the word lachalut and certainty, which is like if this is Hashem's Torah, so you're not so certain all the time. I'm the ultimate authority. If it's an academic achievement, this is what everybody wants in the academic world. In the academic world, what you're hoping for is to come to a certain conclusion, and everybody should clap and say, look at the certain conclusion you came to. But if Torah is not an academic pursuit, but Torah is a search for the truth of Hashem, it's not about me being certain. It's about me hopefully getting an iota of a relationship to the infinite invested in this Torah, of the Hashem himself is invested in the Torah. And you lack a certain lachalut, and you lack a certain, chad chalak. My way or the highway, this is the only way to read it, this is the only way to understand it. There's got to be a certain, which is connected to what we said before, the person who learns Torah but doesn't come to halacha properly. That was the mistake of Doeg, never came to the halacha properly. Because if this is Hashem's Torah, then the question is, what does Hashem want? And then you can come to the true halacha. But if it's a question of my own academic pursuit, then it comes to what do I think? And what I think isn't necessarily always what Hashem wants. Right? So there's a certain bitul, there's a certain humility in the Torah study, understanding that this is Hashem's Torah. You're not so chad chalak, you're not so chalachalutim, you don't have tzmitus, you don't have this eternality that like, I'm always right, I'm absolute right, and therefore you won't sell land because it's Hashem's land, and certainly won't stand to another Jew. So maybe this is the connection between these three things.
Don't forget he's not even Jewish.
No, Doeg is Jewish.
Doeg is Jewish, sure, he's Jewish.
He lived amongst them. He was actually the
He's Jewish, he's definitely Jewish.
So
Yeah.
When you said Smitut about the land,
Yeah.
does it mean 50 years?
Yeah.
Or-
Yeah. After 50 years it goes back, yeah.
About 50 years.
It's not forever, meaning it comes
So
back.
when he says here, let's Smitut, what does it mean?
The pasuk
50
says,
years or
"Don't sell."
40?
Let's be to it. Don't sell eternally. Look at, you can see on the side,
Yeah, loitim,
nun, the letter nun on the right, all the way on the right side. Letter nun.
No, it's actually related to Samach. Yeah.
No, sorry, the next one.
Samach.
Va'aretz le'samach le'tzmitus. The land you shall not sell for eternality, for certainty. K'lo haaretz. It's not the land. You're only dwellers with me, which means like God saying you're my guest in this house, not yours to just sell off.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? So the verse is saying not to sell it forever. And we derive that the word that Yovel is referred to as forever, and therefore it's got to come back before Yovel. That's what we derive from there.
Correct me if I'm wrong,
Yeah.
but the Jubilee year is a certain year, so if
Every 50 years.
Every 50 years, but if if I sold my land to you, but the Jubilee year could be coming up in 3 years.
That's
now.
correct. That's correct.
It's prorated. Right?
Yes, correct. You would adjust the sale for that. You adjust the cost of the sale
Right.
accordingly.
So yeah, the Jubilee year is already determined.
It's not 50 years. It's at the 50th year, even if you sold it at year
From
47.
Right.
That's
It's
correct.
From creation. Right.
It's every 50. It's a certain cycle. It's 7 years.
Actually,
7.
when they came into land.
Every 7 years it starts again.
From when they came to
Every 7 years, and then 7 times 7 becomes 49, and the 50th year is
Is the Jubilee year.
so it's after 7 Shemitahs, you have Yovel, and then Yovel is year 1 of the first Shemitah.
How does it
So the next one is
Israel
6 years later.
this land, they lease it to 99 years.
Now they won't have Yovel, that's the difference.
We don't have Yovel today.
Yeah.
That's certainly not Daraisa. We don't have Yovel.
This or like this?
Yovel?
With a Y?
Usually the Y.
With a Y, yeah.
Or you can look it up, if you want
Yeah.
to check it up in English, Jubilee, the Jubilee year.
Jubilee means like celebration or the marking of the
but
time.
the Jubilee
But it's
year-
used
No,
often.
So it means 50.
Means a 50, yeah, it also means
No,
50.
but if
Yeah.
you look at like Wikipedia, like Jubilee
Okay.
year, they'll mention the halacha, but the other aspect of Sarat, it showed even his body's on his own.
Sorry?
Even his body's on his own. 'Cause normally a person thinks when a person's healthy,
Yeah.
that he's
His
own.
mind is not his.
Yeah, exactly.
His land is not his, and his body is not his.
Hashem shows him, you think you're okay, I'm going to show you Sarat.
Your neshama is not yours.
Yeah, exactly.
Your property is not yours, and your own body is not yours. Yeah.
So your mind is not
It's
yours.
all
That's the
about-
whole
No,
point.
Yeah.
the Torah is the first, the mind.
Mind,
Then the
neshama.
land, then even the body is not his.
Your neshama, your property, and your land. That's very nice.
Yeah,
That's very
because
good.
it's Sarat shows
Yeah.
the
What
very-
do you say?
No, this is medrash because the thing is, a person can hide it, but eventually it's like it spreads all over his face, whatever other parts of the body. So
Okay.
First, the Taras comes in a closed part of his body, concealed. People don't see it. The Chuved goes away, but if not, it'll spread even more. So eventually.
Same thing with Torah.
Yeah.
Originally, everybody thinks you're a big scholar, and then
But I don't understand something.
then it
Why
takes
are
time.
you-
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. Okay.
Are-
Let's
are
do
we
one more
sure
line before we
Saras
close
doesn't
up.
exist anymore?
I'm sorry.
Are we sure Saras?
Yeah, we don't have Taras today.
We don't have today.
You have
Okay.
a certain level to have Taras to get that kind of divine.
Let's do one more line.
Above
Also, the
nature.
world has to be a certain level.
Yeah, the world, the people. We're not.
Okay. Let's do one more line before we go.
But if it did happen, by the way, it would be a problem.
what would you do? Anyway,
become.
we also don't have people who don't know the colors.
Let's say people you had a coin who's knowledgeable. There's a custom like in Minchas talks about. Not convenient would be, let's say, in a walled city like Yerushalayim, for example.
If he has to leave, yeah.
But
Also, whether or not we have control of the wall.
Don't sell a shonara.
That's for sure. That's good for this world and the world.
But even I know that famous thing. Even the walled city. The question is if we have full control over it. If there's a Sanhedrin, if there's a Bezdin, it's not so complicated. It's very complicated. Okay, one more line before we close up. Amar Rabbi Yochanan says after the parentheses there, the Gemara gives in the parentheses. The Gemara gives him what's the word? Mnemonic. Right?
Mnemonic, playing numbers and
gives a bunch of words to remind you of what the next thing is.
Okay. The different topics.
Amar Rabbi Yochanan says.
Smart.
Shloisha Malachei Chabala Nizdamnu Ledoyeg. There were 3 angels of destruction, 3 agents of destruction from Hashem that arrived to Doyeg, I guess before his death or at his death. What did these each do? Right? We know already from the story of Avraham that Hashem sends 3 angels to him, and each angel has to do a separate mission. Angels don't do 2 missions at once because they're not human beings who can think. They can think independently and therefore have multitasking, conflicting thoughts. Angels are direct agents of Hashem, a direct line of Hashem revelation, and therefore they are myopic. So each of the 3 angels has to do a separate job.
What's myopic? One job?
Myopic means like one-track minded, like one single-minded. Number 1, Echad Sheshichik Talmud. The first is made Doyeg forget all of his Torah as we just described. The Echad and 1 Shesaraf Nishmasai, that burnt his soul, which means it's apparently obviously it's a spiritual thing, but in addition to not getting share in the world to come, right? There's a certain kind of purgatory that it burns his own neshama, gets consumed, whatever that means. Maybe the next line is going to help us understand what that means. The echad, and the third one, shepizer afra, that took the ashes of Doyeg's neshama, which was just burnt up, and pizer means to spread it out. Spreads it out, but midrashis all over the shuls and study halls, which means it's another derogatory thing in that it gets trampled on. That's the way Rashi learns it. The person gets that people trampling, as it were, on Doyeg's neshama. Now it could be that it's actually it's almost like a. Back up. We know, at least the way Chassidus understands this, is that punishment is not punitive. God forbid. Hashem's not punitive. Doesn't sit and ha. Even measure for measure can be punitive.
It's not vengeful.
It's not vengeful. God's not saying there on a scroll, ha. Look, I'm burning you because you disobeyed me. It's not the way it works. The neshama goes through a cleansing process, and the cleansing process is painful. It's painful. Like a surgery is painful, so is a spiritual surgery. That's what hell is. It's a spiritual surgery without anesthetic. So it's very, very painful, but it's part of what neshama has to go through to get healthy, to go through its process. So it could be that even for Doyeg, who is not going into the world to come, whatever that means, also himself his neshama is being purified, and it's purified in a fire. We actually know this also, that the equivalent of a mikveh here, which is water, in the spiritual world is fire. Like for example, between one Gan and another Gan, then they go through. You go into the mikveh of a fiery Nahar Dinar, a fiery river. That's a cleansing process, right? So like actually, even physically, you have things that are cleansed through fire. Right, the kashrut. You have other things that are cleansed through fire, right? Because fire extracts the negative and leaves the positive. Like it separates the good of the negative. So you cleanse things. So it could be this burning is in and of itself his cleansing. And then what's his cleansing? His cleansing is that he should be put into the Beis Medrash. His original mistake was learning Torah academically without a sense of surrender that this is God's Torah. So now he's getting the ultimate surrender to Torah. And that those who are studying Torah are trampling on him, are trampling not literally, obviously, because they're not trampling on any literal ashes anyway. It's not physical, right? But the idea of being trampled on is a sense of bittul, a sense of surrender, a sense of humility. And because his problem was arrogance in Torah, so therefore he's put into the place of Torah, the house of study, and being trampled on, getting humility. That's part of his cleansing, his tikkun, his cleansing, his fixing. Maybe. I translated the Gemara literally, but that's a little, perhaps, a suggested reading. Okay, we'll stop over here, and God willing, tomorrow more comments on Doeg and Akseifel, and then I hope you come back because we have soon the ultimate commentary from the Gemara on how to deal with lust. Serious Gemara. All right.
Stay tuned.
I don't know if
I want to learn this.
Have a wonderful day, everybody.
I prefer my